far too many people, when they go to have a new relationship, whether it's a mentor, whether it's an apprentice, whether it's somebody you're pouring into, pouring out of, we give almost like a carte blanche approach. Like, okay, we're similar. Like you and I are similar, right? We love the same things. We're passionate about the same things. We love helping people. We love creating businesses. We love watching people thrive and succeed and grow and go. And we love all that stuff. And if someone comes to the table and they exhibit some of those things, I know for me, it's easy for me to say, oh, come on in, the inner wheel. Come on right now. You can do this. Only to get there and find out that they have been, deceptive in order to get there.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of makes Evan's approach and that ring approach that I kind of use myself, knowing that you test people as you come along.
Hey, welcome, Steven. It's great to have you back, buddy.
My friend, dude, it's always awesome to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Such a pleasure, such a pleasure. If you're looking at the man himself, you can see how cool he is. He's looking very, very sharp. Let's take people back a little bit for people that don't know your story. I always like to touch on the childhood because I think that it affects how we, live our lives. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Absolutely. It's definitely true that the tree of life always starts with a root. And I think each of us have that root inside. For me, some of my greatest adversities that showcase themselves in my early 20s and late teens came directly from a spirit of not feeling valued and worth and things of that nature, as you and I have talked about on some previous shows. And, growing up in basically a single parent household, parents in different areas of the country, single with my grandmother, trying to raise me the best she knew how, gave me encouragement, and she was empathetic and inspiring and teaching and all those great things, only to lose her at around the age of 11 after spending 2 years watching her deteriorate due to cancer. And at 9 years old is when I was asked to step up for the first time and fast forward my life from being a little kid with a G.I. Joe and a transformer in a hand, all of a sudden to becoming the little helper to help my little brother and my nanny, which is what I referred to her as, by making meals that she taught me how to make, by pulling a chair up to the stove, and making, boiled hot dogs and, macaroni and cheese with the powder kind, not the Velveeta with the nice cheese, but, making the powdered sugar and not powdered sugar, the powdered
pancakes.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that was life for a little while. And then around the age of 11, when she finally passed away, there was a custody battle that ensued. It wasn't super hardcore, which is great. But essentially I went to go live with my father here and staying in North Carolina, and my little brother and my mother went down to Florida. And then I entered the construction industry. It's not super, I've learned, check this out. I had this interesting epiphany. The construction industry is not super sexy until someone needs something built.
Right.
Right. So, cause I've had these, moving towards thought leadership over the last 3-4 years, one of the things that I used to struggle with is like, man, I come from a construction background. Like I don't own Apple. I didn't create, Amazon, but I have my own story. And, so I grew up in the construction industry, basically began taking care of myself between 11 and 13, buying my own school clothes. If I wasn't at school, I was working, and it was that way off and on, all the way till about the age of 17. And my dad, owned his own business and, for a little while, and it did pretty well. And that was until the economy started to tank. And then he realized he actually had to pay taxes, and essentially his business folded. We went from kind of having the world be our oyster, if you will, to kind of losing everything that my dad had worked really hard for probably close to a year.
But you were with your dad and your brother was with your mom?
Yep.
Why did it happen that way?
Well, a couple different reasons. My mother didn't believe my little brother was old enough in order to make a decision like that. I had just turned 11, 12, 13 years old as by the time this entire thing shook out. And my father had promised me martial arts lessons. And that was a huge selling thing. So that was the first time I can remember being sold. Martial arts is something I love and have always studied off and on, and it's just been a huge part of my life. But so that's how that ended up that way. It wasn't, I didn't learn the repercussions of that until, probably two Christmases ago.
Oh, wow.
My brother came to me as a grown man, tearfully angry about me abandoning him, the one person he looked up to that he thought would have his back and stuff like that. And I never thought about it that way. You know, I was trying to make, you know, I'm making a child's decision as a child, not knowing any better.
But why were you making that decision? Are you taking that decision on? Your parents were the ones that could have facilitated that decision.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's probably, there's a scientific term for this, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, that essentially your parents become your children. So the roles are completely reversed. That's essentially been my life. My father and my mother, even to this day, come to me for guidance. They come to me for financial support from time to time. They come to me to share their own inner concerns and inner things that they're working through. You know, bless God, they've both come a long way. But I think at the early onset, both my parents were anti-conflict. You know, so when conflict did happen, it was very, very aggressive. You know, in the DISC personality style, I'd probably say they were probably really off the chart high S's, who just didn't deal with conflict very well.
Right.
And for some reason, I've always been, I guess, as we've talked before, this 99 D's, 80 something I. So I've always been able to make decisions, kind of eat conflict for breakfast. And as a result, I've always been able to fast forward certain aspects of my life. However, it's also meant that I've made some pretty boneheaded decisions along the way that ended up taking me and leading me from dropping out of high school to later homeless. After making a bunch of money, losing everything, and then basically following the same pattern, right, that we've talked about before in previous shows, same patterns that we fall into that have been exhibited to us until we become aware of those patterns. And at that point in time, spent about a year and some change struggling through that environment, began this journey of personal development and self-awareness. And next thing you know, I'm grabbing lumber and 2x4s out of a trash pile and started a construction company that now employs, 450 people across 3 states. And, you know, now one of the larger applicators in the country for exterior building products, which just sounds crazy, but it wasn't super sexy. But when somebody needs something built, they know who to call, right? And that led me to writing my first book and kind of giving my story, which is very long, very drawn out, and it's hard to do it in a kind of a snippet. But
so who takes care of Stephen Scoggins?
I take care of Stephen Scoggins. He's got first priority to take care of Stephen Scoggins. Stephen Scoggins' first responsibility is making sure he is emotionally aware, mentally aware, spiritually aware, and constantly looking to develop myself on a day in and day out basis.
Who do you call when things are tough?
You know, I've had the sincere pleasure of actually having some what I refer to as your 5 friends, right? So your 5 to thrive. I've got 3 people who own businesses that are much larger than mine. So they have business acumen, but what makes it interesting is they both have fantastic family lives. And they've managed to not only become super successful in business, but also super successful in life with not necessarily the term balance. I think balance is necessarily a kind of a falsehood.
Right.
But it's more like they're symbiotic, right? So one feeds the other. One does not exclude the other. And I think, especially as entrepreneurs, that's probably one of the most difficult things to do because we tie our identity to the businesses that we are created, you know, that we have created, not realizing that business falls, all of a sudden our identity fails. That's why you see people when we have financial downturns, you know, taking their own life because they lost a bunch of money or they're not realizing they just rebuild it again, right? So that's been a huge part of that for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like, once again, we've talked about this before, is the similarities in the childhood is part of your childhood you missed out on because you needed to make decisions that were beyond your age, really, and carry the load and find your own clothes and things like that. And you and I have those similar backgrounds. Myself, I left at 17 and, you know, took on a bunch of jobs and made it work and became a successful entrepreneur. But along the journey, one of the things I've learned is that, you know, rock always has to be strong.
Yeah.
And there's a price to that carrying that burden of feeling like you cannot show that, hey man, I'm just tired. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Like really, you know, I've had my brothers and sisters call for money. I've had my exes call for money. I've had I bought my mom a house. And I do it all because I'm capable of doing it. But I have to be honest, there's a part of me sometimes like, hey, you guys see how hard I'm working over here? Do you realize that I'm never sick?
Yeah.
I never say no. I'm always taking care of myself. And part of that's led me to the awareness that I became needless. People would ask if I needed help, and I'm good. You want something? No, I'm good. I got so used to not needing or not allowing myself to need, because I was afraid that if it wasn't there again tomorrow, I would become soft and weak. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, what you're really talking about is identity again, right? If your identity is wrapped up in being the solution to everybody's problems, then inevitably you are going to get to the place where you've poured out so much, there's nothing left to pour, and you end up empty. So circling yourself with people that you can trust and you can rely on to kind of have your back is imperative. I know that's something you and I've talked about before. Most people don't have a process in which they go through to actually discover those people. And then one of my good friends, Evan Carmichael, he mentioned on a show we did together, he said, because I said, well, how do you actually find these mentors? How do you find these people that, you can trust, right? To pour into you? Because I'm sure this will resonate with you as well, Rock. I always question when I meet someone new, do they really want to know Steven? Or do they want to know the entrepreneur, the financier, the philanthropist, the all the dots, right? My circle of friends that wants to know the real Steven, I can count on less than one hand.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was asking Evan, and say, hey man, what do you use to determine that? And he says, always test the free stuff. Always test the free stuff. Get to know somebody by the free stuff. Get to know somebody by what I refer to in some of our content as a relational wheel, the relational circle. So your inner circle is people that are, super tight to you. The outer ring is going to be people that are considered friends. The outer ring behind that is going to be acquaintances. The outer ring out of that is going to be toxic. The outer ring behind that is going to be dangerous, right? And people can choose to go in and out of the rings, right? So conversely, I view people in relationships, especially ones that are going to be super, impactful to me, based on how quickly they can come in through those rings. In other words, what character traits have they exhibited to me to help me understand that they're not dangerous, they're not toxic, they're worth more of my time and energy than just being an acquaintance. They've proven themselves as a reliable friend on a regular basis. Okay, well, maybe I can open up and give them a little something. Right? Maybe I can give them just a taste of who I am, my transparent self, my vulnerable self. And if I give them a taste, let's see how they handle that. I think far too many people, when they go to have a new relationship, whether it's a mentor, whether it's an apprentice, whether it's somebody you're pouring into, pouring out of, we give almost like a carte blanche approach. Like, okay, we're similar. Like you and I are similar, right? We love the same things. We're passionate about the same things. We love helping people. We love creating businesses. We love watching people thrive and succeed and grow and go. And we love all that stuff. And if someone comes to the table and they exhibit some of those things, I know for me, it's easy for me to say, oh, come on in, the inner wheel. Come on right now. You can do this. Only to get there and find out that they have been, deceptive in order to get there.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of makes Evan's approach and that ring approach that I kind of use myself, knowing that you test people as you come along. In business, for example, I know that you know this because you got great teams as well. When you go to build a great team and you're trying to determine what role, responsibilities, and accountabilities that they're going to have, you're going to delegate, right? You're going to delegate. Most entrepreneurs delegate and forget about it, not realizing you delegate and you test. 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 Because what you're looking for more than anything else is competency. You can make a great potential leader horrible by assuming that they've already got leadership figured out. You and I both know that leadership takes time. It takes commitment. It takes focus. It takes intentionality. And it takes admitting when you're wrong. It takes going to your team and saying, hey guys, I really messed up on that one. Can you forgive me for that? And that is one major thing that I know that I see people doing all the time is they get over trusting. So they let things come in too fast. And then they over delegate. And you can over delegate in the business world, and you can also over delegate in your personal life. And I figured that that's one probably major area that we could all benefit from just by understanding that every relationship, whether it's a mentor, mentoree, acquaintance, apprentice, whatever that relationship's going to shape them to be, needs to have a period of delegating and testing. So when you ask, who are these people you go to? I go to people who have proven themselves to be reliable in the time of not just when I need them, but they also celebrate when I celebrate.